G'day guys, hope you're doing well. Welcome to another Pink Panther video on AFL23. Now the other night we had a very special guest. Ross did drop by my stream the other night, which was very muchly appreciated. So thank you to Ross for stopping in. And he was kind enough to answer a heap of viewer questions while I was playing. And I missed a lot of it because I couldn't keep up with the chat and all the comments coming through. So what I've done is I've gone back through the VOD today, the Twitch VOD, and I've just jotted down the answers that Ross gave to some questions that I think people would like to hear the answers to, just in regards to how things are progressing with the AFL game. So first, it's a long list, but I'll get through it as quick as possible. Management mode was touched on. Obviously, there's a lot more bits and pieces to come with management mode. There wasn't a time frame given or specific sort of elements that were coming in, but I think one of the most logical things that has to come in is going to be play development. So I drafted a key forward who's about a 65 overall, and he's absolutely useless. So we need to find a way to make sure we can build him up to progress him further. And I feel like that's going to be a big piece of the management mode going forward. Free agency is another one where people have been able to filter their free agency list, but haven't been successful in being able to sign the delisted free agents or anyone like that. That is going to be addressed in one of the next few patches Ross mentioned, which is good, because at the moment I think even a delisted free agent, they just ask for or hope that a trade goes through, which obviously shouldn't happen. You should be able to sign the player pretty freely. Tactics, we know tactics are in the game now, which is very good. And one thing which I know I mentioned a long time ago on stream is that the coaches' whiteboards that you see at the cutscenes at quarter time and three-quarter time, they will very soon replicate what your tactics are in game. So it won't always stay balanced. It'll actually mirror the tactics you're using at the time, which is pretty cool for just a bit more sense of realism. So hopefully that's in the near future. And obviously staying on the tactics front, they're going to be on the D-pad soon as well. So you can do it on the fly, which is going to be very important for online mode because obviously you can't pause in there. So being able to toggle the tactics on the fly on D-pad will be a very good addition, which should be happening very shortly, Ross mentioned. Injuries are going to play a part in future patches. There's still some internal discussions about how the severity of the injuries are going to play out and how long players will miss and the impacts that have and things like that. So I'm guessing that's more of a balancing act. The other thing I'd like to see happen there too, and I'm not sure if this is going to come in or not, but it would be good if there was like a mail or an inbox system where if an injury occurred that you were notified. So at the moment, injuries happen, but you kind of don't see it until your players aren't in the side. And if you're looking through your lineup, you'll see them in red. And it'll tell you the injury. But apart from that, you don't sort of know. So hopefully there's some kind of an alert mechanism to let us know that as well. Xbox, there has been some speculation about Xbox not coming out at all, so that's completely not true. And while Ross wasn't able to reveal too much more on Xbox due to the NDA in place from Microsoft, which we've mentioned before, definitely confirmed it's coming to the console, definitely confirmed that it'll be the most up-to-date version of the game on par with what we're up to with Steam and PS5 and PS4, and that Pro Club will follow not long after, Pro Team will follow not long after Xbox launches, and that is also on the assumption that the online gameplay is at a fixed and suitable standard, because at the moment it's not up to scratch, I think it's fair to say. So once all that sort of takes place, we will see Xbox and Pro Team coming out sort of very close together by the sounds of it, which is good. I've seen a lot of people mention the scoreboard. So the scoreboard, or the scoring HUD, should I say, on the bottom left side of the screen is, I believe, Channel 7's one. And a few people were asking if it was possible to have other options. And Ross's answer was pretty simple, that if you have an idea of what you want a different scoring HUD to look like, go to the Big Ant website and submit it, and they will take on all ideas, and he said he will help bring them to life. So whether that's a Channel 7 one, a Fox Footy one, and whatever else, they will take all them into consideration, and what they can do, he will try and push over the line for everyone, which is kind of cool. The AI are now reacting to your tactics and countering. So the one thing I noticed last night while playing is the AI were definitely switch kicking and knocking it around their back half a lot more, which I hadn't really seen previously. So that was a nice little adjustment. So you got to kind of maybe keep changing your tactics to suit your game style, but then the AI try to counter it, which makes sense, as you would want it to do. The tutorials are coming, and the tutorials will kind of also act as a mini games as well of some sort. So kind of a bit of a 2-in-1 hit there. I'm not sure what type of tutorials. But Ross did mention tutorials for the different features that are in, and tactics and all that kind of stuff will be on their way in. Steam versus PlayStation cross-platform will be happening very, very soon. And when Xbox releases, that will have cross-play compatibility from the start. Well, it should do anyway. So, yeah, PlayStation and Steam users should be shortly, and then Xbox will hit the ground running on that front as well. Now, there was a suggestion put forward by a poster on Big Footy. And I think a few people may have noticed that the kicking distance of certain players varies. You know, you could have I've had a set shot from 40 metres with Trent Cotchin, and it fell short, and had it from the same distance with Tom Lynch, and it went through. And that comes down to the player's individual kicking attributes, which is fine. That makes complete sense. But a poster on Big Footy had mentioned that what if there was a way that maybe with the aiming cursor was maybe color coded, so you could tell if if it was green, it means they're probably going to make the distance. If it was yellow, it may fall short. If it was red, it's not within their range, so you probably then can make a decision to pass it off. And I think Big Ant have taken that on board, and it sounds like they are working on something along that line, which is pretty cool. So at least you'll have some kind of visual representation and understanding of if your players will be in range or not when having a set shot. Deliberate out of bounds. So deliberate out of bounds was actually switched off because I know a few people experienced the bug where there was like those 100-meter handballs or weird kicks that kind of sort of glitched out and went out of bounds. So they actually turned deliberate out of bounds off, because otherwise it would have technically punished players for those balls going out of bounds, and it wasn't the user's fault. So they didn't want that to sort of double down on the glitch that was already there. So once the 100-meter handball glitch and the weird kick glitch is gone, they will switch that back on, and you'll see that back in the game. Automatic advantage paid after free kicks is still being workshopped. They're not happy with the current state that it's in, so they are working on another version of that to implement, which is good. They're also looking into, I've noticed personally with some of the saved management career games I've got, when they've introduced things like the wind on the ground, for example, that it hasn't been showing in my pre-saved games. It's shown when I go to play now and start up a brand new game, but for existing ones, it hasn't been there. And they're still trying to nut that one out, because on their testing in the office, it's showing up across all games. But I've noticed it on my careers, and a lot of other people have as well, that some games it'll be there, some games it won't be. So trying to sort of identify how to get that one resolved so it shows all the time is on their to-do list as well. Pro team's obviously definitely coming. I think it's pretty much from a functional point of view ready to go. It's just making sure that the online gameplay piece is in the right space as well, so it complements it. Otherwise, it would kind of be a little bit of a disaster. But when that's ready to go, there's going to be its own separate press release for that. So it won't just come out, not hidden, but it won't just come out amongst a patch as such. There'll be a bit of work around setting it up and introducing it to everyone, so everyone gets an idea of what to expect. So make sure we keep an eye out for that. Tactics are going to get deeper as well. So the tactics we had introduced last night won't be the final stop of tactics. So this is kind of just an introduction to it. There will be more tactics coming. And it was flagged in the chat, would they look at doing individual player tactics? And Ross mentioned that maybe they could look at doing a tag, which might be, I suppose, the extent of the personalised player tactics. But definitely more to come in that space, which is good too. The real-life mid-season AFL draftees, they will be uploaded into the game shortly. Big Ant are just waiting for all players to be assigned their correct numbers, and then for the clubs to pass on that info to Big Ant so they can then apply it to the players in game and then upload to the relevant teams. So definitely not forgotten about. It's in the works. They've just got to wait for the right info to get into their hands, and they can pull the trigger on that one. A bit of a weird one. Tom Hawkins, I had someone mention in chat that Tom Hawkins maybe didn't look as well represented as he should, and Ross did mention that Tomahawk did miss the actual video, the proper face scan that they would have done on the day for whatever reason, but the club did send through photos of his face for the likeness to be used. So that's why any Geelong supporters out there, if you're noticing Tomahawk maybe doesn't look as alike as some of his teammates, that's why, because he wasn't there for the scan day. The misdirected handballs. So I know a lot of people are having issues with handballs, not all handballs, but some handballs being unresponsive or not going to where they were aiming. That is most definitely a known issue and most definitely a high priority, a Big Ant for them to fix. They are all over it, and they want that eradicated ASAP, because there's nothing worse than putting together a really sort of slick handball chain only for the last handball to go backwards instead of to the guy running forward of the ball, and it ruins it. Then you get, you know, a goal kicked against you on a counter attack. So they are well aware, and they are all over it and getting that one rectified for us all. Auto interchange is also getting fixed. It's been notified that a bug takes place where sometimes your plays end up in very random and different positions. So they are rectifying that to make sure that they stay in their more permanent and relevant positions when the interchange does occur. A few people mentioned the possibility of having game saves at the end of each quarter. Ross mentioned that was explored, but as the amount of crashes has severely decreased, while not fully eradicated, it's decreased substantially, that the memory that it would take to implement a save quarter by quarter was probably not going to be a big payoff in terms of the amount of crashes that are available or that are happening at the moment. So they've opted against it at the moment, but it's something they did look into and speak about, but it's just not something that they feel would be relevant at this point in time based on the memory it would take up within the game. The set shots, they hit the post and come back into play, and you can get a bit of a double play like I had with Liam McBean. That's been wiped, so we can't do that one anymore. I think they knocked that one on the head within 1 or 2 patches. Was a pretty funny glitch. I got a 7-point play, but yes, no longer can you do that one. Bumping and jostling is something I've raised and a few others as well, that it's not really noticeable in game. So Ross has advised that it definitely is in the game, but it's just not amped up enough that it's kind of hardly noticeable. So they are going to get to work on that and amp it up so it is more noticeable. I think, especially if you're running to a one-on-one or running to a loose ball get in a one-on-one situation, you want to be able to bump the guy at the way a bit and try and give yourself an extra 5 or 10 steps ahead. And then again, especially in marking contests too, I think jostling was a big part of the previous footy games as well. Especially, you could feel like you could hold them off and then take the grab at the last minute. I think that's important to be able to do that. So hopefully they amp that up and we can feel that in the game sooner rather than later. Editing player stats. A lot of people have been asking about, can you edit player stats in management mode? So at this point in time, you will not be able to edit player stats in management mode. The reason being is because they're using champion data as the driver of the stats, that it's all very relevant and all. While we may not agree with the stats that are given to the players, it's actually factual data. And Big Ant's techs believe that, or the developers believe that by having that data manipulated to change overalls could actually have an adverse effect on other things within management, like your contracts and things like that. So for the time being, it won't be able to be done in management. But if you do a custom season and you copy a team over, you will be able to do it there, is where it's going to land at the moment. The lock-on kicking feature is going to be refined and improved again. So I think there's probably just maybe response issues there and getting it to work as they want it to. It works okay, but they said they're going to keep building on that and improving that over time, which is good. And finally, online gameplay is obviously a few steps behind the offline gameplay at the moment. They're aware of this. They are working on getting that up to scratch ASAP. Some of it is to do with bugs aside. They're obviously something they've got to iron out, but the PvP mechanism and the timing issue between users is something they've got to try and adjust and make sure they account for as well. Because with Pro Team on the verge of being launched, the online gameplay, it's pivotal that's pretty much flawless. Otherwise, it's going to ruin the whole experience. So they're definitely well aware of the online gameplay piece, and it's definitely something they're working on hard to get right. And hopefully we see that sooner rather than later. So there you go. That was all the answers from Ross dropping into the stream the other night. So it was great to have him in. If he comes in again, I'll make sure I'll let everyone know so you get the chance to pop in, say g'day, ask a few questions and things like that. And if you like the video, as always, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Catch you later.